My parents skipped my wedding, just because I refused to make it smaller than my sister's extravagant celebration. I stood in my wedding gown, hands trembling as the priest whispered softly, "Are your parents coming?" I forced a smile, even though the empty chairs in the front row felt like sharp knives pressing into my chest. All eyes were on me, some whispering, some judging, and I could almost hear my mother's voice in my mind. Faith always tries too hard to outshine her sister. When my sister Emily got married 2 years ago, my parents spared no expense. Over $80,000 on a luxury venue, diamond decorations, horse-drawn carriages, the whole spectacle. But when it came to me, they said, "Keep it simple, Faith. We already spent so much on Emily." I didn't argue. I quietly took extra freelance work, logged long hours, and saved for 2 years to fund my own dream wedding. I wanted a day that was mine, free from comparisons or judgment. When I finally showed my mom photos of the venue, she frowned instantly. "You can't outshine Emily," she snapped. "She's the golden one. People will think you're showing off." My dad chimed in immediately. "Faith, tone it down. We won't attend if you turn this into a circus." I thought they were bluffing. I laughed it off, thinking they'd come around once the invitations were out. But the day arrived and there was nothing, no call, no text. The limo pulled up and I sat there alone, realizing my parents had chosen their pride over their daughter's happiness. As I walked down the aisle, my maid of honor whispered, "Faith, do you want to postpone?" But I shook my head. I wasn't going to let their absence ruin my moment. Every time the photographer asked if we should skip family photos, it felt like another sting. What nobody knew, though, was that the entire wedding, the flowers, the chandeliers, the magical setup, was funded by something my parents never thought I could achieve. And when they eventually found out, their prideful smiles would be replaced with shock and regret. The next morning, while my parents were busy bragging about Emily's latest charity gala on social media, their phones began buzzing nonstop. Pictures from my wedding flooded their notifications. Me in my gown, the breathtaking garden, the elegant details. It all looked like something straight out of a movie. Their friends commented immediately, "Faith's wedding looks incredible. You must be so proud." Instead of pride, panic set in. My mom called first, not to congratulate me, but to scold. "Faith, how could you do this? Everyone is comparing your wedding to Emily's. You embarrassed us." I paused before replying. "Embarrassed? You didn't even show up." Her voice faltered. Then my dad tried, attempting to sound calm. "You could have just done something small, simple. We told you not to go overboard." I took a deep breath. "Dad, I didn't do this to compete. I did this because I finally could." That line left them confused. They had no idea that, while Emily flaunted her perfect life online, I had been quietly building something on my own. Emily always looked down on me, saying things like, "Faith, you work too hard for too little. You should just marry rich like I did." What she didn't know was that while she relied on her husband's money, I was building my own business, designing custom wedding dresses, working with small clients, slowly growing a real brand. I didn't post about it, I didn't brag. Every single dollar went back into my company. Eventually, one of my designs went viral. Orders poured in from brides across the country. Within a year, I was earning more than both my parents combined. And I never told them. So when I said I finally could, I meant every word. I funded every flower, every plate, every magical moment of that night myself. But I wasn't done yet. 2 days later, my mom called again. This time, her voice was shaky, unsure. A crack in her armor I had never heard before. "Faith, where did you even get the money for all this?" my mom asked, her voice trembling with curiosity and disbelief. I smiled softly, letting the suspense linger. "You'll see," I said quietly. "Just come to the open house this weekend." She hesitated, uncertainty flickering across her face, but finally agreed. When Saturday arrived, my parents and Emily appeared, expecting something modest, maybe a small apartment or a rental hall. But as the doors opened, they were met with a stunning surprise. A sprawling glass-fronted studio with my name, Faith Designs, glowing in gold letters above the entrance. Their jaws literally dropped. Emily's voice cracked, disbelief seeping through. "Wait, this is yours?" I nodded. "Every piece in here I created. Every penny you saw me spend on my wedding came straight from this business you all dismissed as a hobby." My dad turned pale and my mom's lips trembled. You never told us?" she whispered. I kept my tone gentle but firm. Because every time I tried, I was reminded that Emily was the successful one. You never believed I could be anything more than her shadow. So I stopped asking for permission and started building on my own. Then Emily's husband, Ryan, who had been quietly observing in the background, stepped forward, eyes wide. "Wait, you're Faith Morgan? The one behind the Celeste collection?" His voice faltered. I froze briefly, then nodded. "Yes, that's me." Ryan's face turned pale. "My company, we tried to collaborate with your brand last month. But my boss said the owner refused because of a conflict of interest." I had no idea it was you. The room went silent. My mom blinked in confusion. "Conflict of interest? What does that mean?" Ryan clenched his jaw. "It means my company tried to replicate one of Faith's designs without permission. She sent a legal notice through her attorney. We thought the designer was some corporate CEO, not my wife's sister." Emily's face flushed crimson. "You what?" she snapped, glaring at him. I crossed my arms, calm and composed. "Yes, Emily. The same sister you mocked for working late nights while you flaunted your life. That's the one whose work your husband's company tried to steal. Karma has a sense of irony, doesn't it?" My parents remained frozen. My mom finally whispered, "Faith, why didn't you tell us earlier?" I met her gaze squarely. "Because you never saw me as more than Emily's shadow. I didn't need your approval to build myself." Emily snapped, anger flaring. "So you think you're better than me now? Just because you made dresses?" I smiled faintly. "No, Emily. I simply learned that I don't have to dim my own light to let someone else shine." Before anyone could respond, my phone buzzed. I glanced down and froze. The timing was perfect. It was a message from my manager. I turned the screen toward everyone. A 7-figure contract offer from one of New York's top luxury fashion houses, inviting me to create an exclusive collection. My dad stammered, Is that real?" I nodded softly. "Yes, Dad. It's real. All of it." Emily's carefully curated world started crumbling right in front of her. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Hidden in the truth Ryan never expected me to reveal. He paled further as I approached, holding a folder I had been keeping tucked away. "Wait, you knew," he muttered under his breath. I held his gaze steadily. "Yes, Ryan. I knew about the company you and Emily invested in, the one that tried to steal my designs last year. I didn't confront you then because I wanted to do it my way." He opened his mouth to protest, but I raised a hand, stopping him. While Emily flaunted a perfect life, I quietly secured every copyright, every client, every contract that could ever rival mine. Every move you made, I anticipated. Every little deal you thought was yours, I had already planned for. Emily's knees shook. You planned all of this?" I nodded calmly. "Not to hurt anyone. Just to protect everything I've built. And perhaps to show who truly earned success and who relied on appearances." I handed the folder to Ryan. Inside were contracts, emails, and bank statements proving my designs had been licensed worldwide, generating millions in revenue. Money that was entirely mine beyond your reach. "You underestimated me. Your little empire is nothing compared to what I quietly created." My parents gaped in shock. My dad whispered, "Faith had no idea." I smiled gently. "Now you do." I turned toward Emily and said, "This is the moment you realize that being flawless in everyone else's eyes isn't what matters. Real strength comes from dedication, persistence, and trusting yourself when no one else does." Emily slumped into a chair, completely speechless. Ryan's eyes were fixed on me, a mix of frustration and admiration warring across his face. My mother's voice trembled as she whispered, We were wrong." I smiled softly, a quiet thrill bubbling inside me. For years they had doubted me, mocked me, and insisted I'd never measure up. Yet now the underestimated girl had emerged victorious. Then, just when everyone thought the story had reached its end, I pressed play on a video I had prepared for the wedding's after-party. The big screen lit up with images of my latest fashion collection, paired with a news headline that read, "Faith Morgan becomes the youngest self-made fashion mogul in the country." The room fell completely silent. Emily's lips parted, then shut again, unable to form a word. My parents' faces were drained of color. A mix of shock and awe etched across their features. In that instant, I realized something powerful. The most satisfying revenge isn't loud or angry. It's quietly proving your worth. Often, the people who mocked you the most are the first to be stunned by your success. The silence stretched painfully, until my mother finally broke it, her voice trembling. "Faith we never imagined." I let her words trail off. Apologies weren't necessary, not yet. I had waited 15 years for this moment, and now it was mine to hold. Emily let out a bitter laugh, weak but sharp. "So this is how you beat me? With money and dresses?" I shook my head. "It's not about beating you, Emily. It's about proving to myself that I don't need anyone's approval to succeed. You had your spotlight, your praise. I built my own quietly, while you were busy watching and judging me." Ryan looked like he was seeing me for the first time, reassessing everything he thought he knew. "Faith, I underestimated you," he admitted, his voice reluctant but sincere. I allowed a small, calm smile. This was the ultimate triumph, not born of malice, but because I finally held the power that had always been denied to me. I walked through the studio, letting my parents and Emily absorb every detail. Luxurious mannequins, meticulously designed gowns, awards I had kept hidden. All of it was proof that dedication and self-belief outweigh the opinions of others. "This," I said softly, "is proof that believing in yourself matters more than anyone else's judgment." I didn't need to be like Emily. I needed to be me. My mother's eyes glistened with tears. Even my father, usually rigid and unshakable, looked stunned and humbled. Emily buried her face in her hands, finally realizing that life isn't about perfection in the eyes of others. It's about building something real, something lasting, something that cannot be taken away. Standing there, surrounded by my creations, I felt a liberation I had never known. The girl who had been mocked, belittled, and overlooked by her own family had not only survived, she had flourished beyond their imagination. That day, I didn't just claim victory over a wedding or silence my critics. I claimed myself. And in that triumph, I finally understood. Sometimes the loudest applause doesn't come from the crowd you expect. It comes from the life you build quietly while others laugh. After that day, no one ever ignored my success again.